Michel de Montaigne was one of the most significant philosophers of the French Renaissance. He was the first to write a work that was described as an essay, and his collection of written essays influenced many later philosophers and also writers directly. Anecdotes merged with autobiography and intellectual insight were a typical characteristic of his works. The word essay comes from a French verb that means to try or to attempt. Montaigne used this term to characterize his attempts of putting his thoughts into words. Guts met the Band of the Hawk by chance at the start. A lot of the band were still teenagers, including their leader Griffith and second-in-command Casca. At that age, people undergo significant changes in personality and there is an overflow of emotions as they transition into maturity. At that age, people orientate themselves at finding friends. Montaigne states that there is a difference between a fire in a love which burns passionately and then calms down, and a friendship that is a wholesome warmth that fills up the human soul and is pleasant and constant. By that point, Griffith was primarily focused on his dream. He had his closer circle of friends with Pippin, Judo, Caucus, Rickard and Casca. And then came Guts. What an interesting human he was for Griffith. There were not many rational thoughts to explain this feeling. It resulted in two fights between them, and for no apparent reason than Guts' Berserk mentality and Griffith's newfound obsession. Boys test each other by fighting. It is a form of playing that teaches them self-control as to not mortally injure their play partner. A triangle started to develop between Griffith, Casca and Guts that was founded upon emotions and subconscious forces, but more about that for another time. Guts found himself amongst men whom he respected and cared for. That was a change for him and his lonesome experience. Griffith met someone who could potentially replace his dream. That was an unconscious and gradual process. So, two, in one way or another, lonely men got to know each other at a point when one is deeply interested in friends and they liked each other. Their friendship started thus voluntarily with no outer forcing factors. They seemed to be uniquely drawn to each other and to bond like no one else. Their souls matched, be it through unconscious influences or otherwise. And it didn't take long until they trusted each other unconditionally with their lives and became confidant. For better or worse, they were becoming like each other and commenced a melting into doppelgangers of each other. They cared for each other's opinions, which were beginning to mirror one another. There is a reason why Guts eventually wanted to find a dream of his own. So we have reached Montaigne's categories of friendship: absolute voluntariness, exclusivity, absolute soul affinity, unconditional trust, and readiness to melt into one. Guts and Griffith's first clash of swords sparked a fire of friendship they didn't even know would happen. There is an undisturbed exchange of thoughts between friends. There exists a spiritual and intellectual coherence between the two, through which the real and complete friendship blossoms, says Montaigne. A friendship is something along the lines of because he or her was himself, herself, and I was myself, and we accepted and cherished each other, we became friends. Griffith chased his dream and Guts wielded his sword. Both profited from each other in one adventure which only good and dear friends can have. They didn't try to change each other. All things just fit. When you think of such friendships, it's clear how good they are if you can't separate one from the other friend. Frodo and Sam, Shrek and Donkey, SpongeBob and Patrick, Griffith and Guts. It is hard to think of one without the other. They have become a compound sentence, one and the other. They are either together in a sentence and thought, or they are not mentioned at all. Human relations are not clear-cut. Inner factors come into play when we bond. We do not rationally think who would be our friend and for what reason, not in the context of our dearest friend anyway. The first time Griffith could only think about Guts was when he decided to leave. It was devastating. So you leave me, dear friend, so suddenly and without notice. It is not easy on the soul to lose your friend now that you have melted into one with time. So the decider was again a duel. It was again a sign of irrationality, or should we say, one of human friendship. The lost duo on the part of Griffith was a symbolic break of his friendship with Guts. That sudden experience of immense emotional character is a kind of death for the soul. One mistake after that, and Griffith found himself pushed into the depth above which he stood on corpses. Such a man couldn't do a mistake, and especially not of that type, as to go to the princess and commit treason through sexual intercourse. And what now? Griffith, laying in a dark cell, lost two of the most important things to him. His dream, and the only thing that made him forget that dream: Guts. Malice, friendship, jealousy, futility, regret, tenderness, sorrow, pain, hunger. So many recurring, yearning feelings. That giant swirl of violent emotions, in which none are definite, but are implied. That alone is the bond which keeps my consciousness from vanishing amidst the numbness. Those were Griffith's thoughts and feelings after being tortured. That much pain and despair, and he still thinks of Guts. It was a betrayal of the highest standard for Griffith. One man ruined one of his highest and surprising ideals, and Griffith himself ruined the rest of his ideals, and even life thereafter. When emotions govern something, it becomes distorted by a storm. One can't think clearly, and only some decisions seem right. Griffith, once given the chance to return his dream and even transcend it in some way, found there to be only one right decision for himself: take the sacrifice of his comrades and be reborn. The Band of the Hawk perishment was romanticized in Griffith's head. What friendship, what life could there be from now on if Griffith wouldn't take the sacrifice? For a man who is mostly stoic, it looks like that in the most crucial and deciding moments, Griffith makes decisions whilst being led by emotion. One decision put him in hell, and one led to his rebirth. If there was a second chance for Griffith's dream, and so there was, Griffith would take it. If there was a second chance for a friendship with Guts, as there was none, would Griffith have taken it? At the end, his soulmate Guts became the struggler, and from then on they were still inseparable, by thought or action, but this time bound by hate, and terrible meaninglessness and futility.